Live from Orlando, Florida, you're listening to the Orlando Magic HQ podcast, the voice of Magic fans. Join us every week for a unique fan perspective on all of the latest Magic news and updates. The show starts now.
What's up, Magic fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Orlando Magic HQ podcast, brought to you by the Believe Podcast Network and Bet Online. I'm your host, Anthony. Al is on vacation, man. If you didn't see, Al had this crazy vacation plan where he went outside of the country, then came back inside of the country, made it to the Clippers game and the Lakers game. So he's out, and holding it down for me is our man, Steven Cameron, part of the family, also host of the Close Up podcast. Steven, what's up, man? How's it going?
Good morning. What's going on, Ant? I'm feeling good. A little bit, I'm on the West Coast. It's like 7:30 right now, so I'm like had a cup of coffee, waking up, but feeling good. It's Magic Game Day. It's Magic Game Day, and I love coming on this podcast. I love chopping it up with you, and I love because typically when this happens, bro, we get in a little bit of trouble with Al because we just go off the rails sometimes. So I'm looking forward to seeing how our conversation goes today and seeing what Al thinks of the episode this week. Boss man.
Yeah, man. Behind the scenes stuff, if you don't know, Al's the one that he takes ownership of the agenda. So when Al isn't here, there's zero agenda. So Steven and I, we're just going to be going back and forth. And we're dropping this episode. We're recording Saturday morning. So you guys will be getting this Saturday. Maybe
Morning,
late morning.
Afternoon?
Yeah, maybe.
Depending on what time zone you're in,
Yeah, I'll be before the Pistons game, so we made a little bit of adjustment just because, man, these West Coast games. I'm sure for you being in Cali, it's beautiful, it's perfect, but it's been rough. So if we would have recorded on Thursday night like we normally do, it would have been after the Magic game, close to midnight, and we're not doing that.
Yeah, and let's talk about time zones for a second with games. Like I saw online all the East Coast Magic fans just hating the West Coast road trip, and I get it. You guys are having to stay up till midnight 30, and but for me, I lived in Orlando for many years. I'm gonna be in Orlando in a month. See family. I come back regularly, and I love it, but when the Magic come out here, I actually get to watch games at a normal time. 7:30. My daughter's, basically in bed at this point, and I can watch a game interruption free. When they're on a normal game, during the weekday, it starts at 4 o'clock for me. I'm still working at that point in time. I have, typical 9 to 5, sometimes working a little bit later past that. So I'm I have to watch it either you have to stop work, which I do most of the time because I'm Magic are more important than, bringing in income for me and my family. I'll watch part of the game, then my family comes home, and then the game's interrupted, and I'm cooking and stuff. Sometimes I can watch it live, sometimes I can't. Sometimes my daughter will watch a little bit with me, getting things going in the house. So I personally have been enjoying watching some uninterrupted basketball for a little bit, but obviously I know that's challenging for most of the Magic fans. How did you deal with the West Coast road trip? Did you stay up? Did you fall asleep through half of them? What was going on with you with how you consumed the last 3 games?
Yeah, I mean, I went into it with all the right intentions, right? In my mind, perfect scenario. I got 2 little ones. I got a 4 and a 2-year-old. They go down about 7:30, 8 o'clock every single night. So by the time I get them down, it's a little bit of a process. Could take me 30 minutes.
Sure.
An hour on a bad day. So by the time I'm out, it's probably about maybe 9-ish o'clock, right? So game time starting at 10:30. Perfect. Kids are down. I'll drink myself a nice little coffee so that it keeps me up. By the time it hits maybe the third quarter is when it starts getting rough for me.
You start falling asleep on the couch a little bit?
Man, yeah. Well, the wife already wants to transition into bed, so I got to watch the game from where I rest my head at night, and then it's just hard. So, funny story. The Clippers game, not too bad. I couldn't finish it, so I ended up finishing it the morning after. But the
Lakers
Lakers
game. That's an easy game to not worry about. It was a blowout anyways. Yeah.
But the Lakers game, man. So fell asleep 100%. Couldn't do anything about it. My son normally wakes up at about maybe 1:30 in the morning. So when my son woke up, the first thing I did was I checked the score. When I looked at the score, hey Siri, Orlando Magic score, it tells me we won by 1. Instantly, it went from me being sleepwalking to wide awake, seeing that we won by 1 and saying, holy crap, like I can't believe it. I missed the game. My wife is not trying to hear any of that because she's sleepwalking also. And then I'm also trying to change a diaper at the same time and get a bottle ready. Once we got my son back down to sleep, I was wide awake. I rewind. I watched the replay last 5 minutes, and man, what a terrible game not to watch live. What a terrible opportunity.
You messed that one up.
Probably game of the season, easy, and I hate the fact that I didn't see it live.
I know a few people that were in that same sort of situation, like, fell asleep at halftime, just didn't watch it in general because they were exhausted and like disappointed from the Clipper game the night before. For me, I watched the Clippers game from start to finish, but the Lakers game, we had a dinner guest over again, Thursday night, late night, like friends from out of town. So I turned it on at basically after halftime, and I watched the second half, and man, yeah, you missed a good one. But, I don't know, like maybe there's some luck to you falling asleep and being distracted, and like some of these other people falling asleep. Maybe that, like you guys sleeping brought Magic some good luck. And that's why Franz is Franz and had that killer step back 3 for the win. Like, man, let's talk about that for a second. Not necessarily like people falling asleep in luck, because we know I'm just mostly BS in there. But when you watch that replay and you watch the last, 5 minutes, and then, you digest all the information that we get, and after the game and stuff like that, what was your thought process going into that last bit? And just how did you feel?
So before we get into that, Steven, because Al is going to kill us for not reading the ads, we're going to get into the ad real quick, and then we'll jump into it. Yeah, Al, he's gonna kill us, man. We're messing up. So Bet Online, basketball fans, it is time of the year again. The NBA is back. From opening tip-off to buzzer beaters, Bet Online has you covered with the best odds, the biggest promotions, and live in-game betting on all your favorite teams. This season, every game matters. Bet Online has every stat, matchup, breakdown, and live odds to bet on during game. And it's not just NBA. Bet Online has odds on everything from football, MLB, NHL to political props. Head to the website today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet Online, the game starts here. Also, don't forget to check out our guy, Brandon Kravitz, on In the Zone 5 days a week, talking about all the hottest sports topics in Orlando and beyond, live on 96.9 The Game and iHeartRadio. Also, if you're looking for more Magic coverage, Brandon will be hosting an extension of his show on game days. It's In the Zone Game Day Magic from 6 to 6:30 p.m. It's token the pregame before the pregame show every weekday that the Magic play a game. And if that's not enough, catch bonus content and exclusive interviews about the Magic, sports betting, fantasy, and more on the Zone Heads podcast. Download and subscribe wherever you are listening to us. Steven, to answer your question real quick, before we speak about our Patreon, I think for me, what highlights that game so much is that Franz had it going pretty early, right?
Yeah.
The Clippers game was a bit of a struggle because Franz wasn't. Not that Franz wasn't Franz, but obviously he's more of a focal point on the defensive schemes from the opposing teams now. So Franz is learning also to be adjusting to that, right? Because that's normally Paolo Banchero.
Right.
Jalen Suggs also, although he had an okay, decent game, obviously from an offensive standpoint, we needed his help a little bit more than what he was able to contribute. But going into that Laker game, Franz just had it going from the beginning of the game. Right. And then kind of just everything leading up to it. Anthony Davis missing those 2 free throws right before Franz hitting that game winner is huge. But the way that Franz did it, so confident, and it wasn't a drive to the basket. It was, I'm going to win this game.
Yeah,
right?
He got
Cam Reddish. Yep. He had AD on him, switched to Cam Reddish, sized him up, step back, hit the 3. Confident.
It was a deep step back too. Like he wasn't. He was like 5 feet behind the line. It was pretty aggressive, and I loved that.
Yeah, it was super deep, man. And even afterwards, like just him just turning around and kind of staring at the crowd. He said whatever it was that he said, but it was lethal. And I think that for the Magic for such a long time, and obviously we have this with Paolo Banchero, because Paolo Banchero he's hit some game winning shots for us also.
Oh yeah. But
it's the killer instinct that this team has been missing for so long, right? So I have a good friend of mine that he's a diehard Lakers fan, and the morning after, I sent him a message. So are we going to talk about this? And I got a phone call quick, and I heard every excuse in the book. JJ Redick needs to do a better job. We don't have a point guard. We need to ship out D'Angelo Russell, everything, right? But Franz Wagner, like, to me, this Laker game was so important because it felt like there was an asterisk on every game that we've played, these last 7 or 8 games. Like, the team that we were playing against wasn't a
Healthy
great
team.
Yeah. Healthy team. There was always something, right?
Soft schedule.
Yep. This game was second night of a back-to-back, 3-game road trip. Lakers, LeBron, Anthony Davis. For the Magic to get this win is a huge deal, and it says a lot about where this team is from a performance standpoint, from Coach Mose to everyone to Franz.
Yeah, you can see the team just like kind of leveling up on its own right now, particularly defensively. Not only did Franz have the step back 3 for the win, but you had Jonathan Isaac coming in to guard Anthony Davis for the inbound pass because you knew Anthony Davis was taking the last shot. And that was just, he did a great job there in the last 2 seconds because that's enough time for a team to get a shot up and win. We've seen it time and time again. The game was not necessarily over when Franz made that shot. They could have drawn a foul. There was a couple of different things that could have happened with the Lakers to potentially, win it. And the Magic did all the right things. It was a sign of growth for the team and for Franz, I think. We've been the talent for Franz has never been questioned, right? It was like, yeah, he needs to find his shot back, but he's so diverse. It was more like the mentality, like coach I'm going to butcher the quote exactly because I don't have it up in front of me, but basically the sense was coach told Franz to be uncomfortable. We need you to be uncomfortable because Franz often is trying to do the right play. And in his mind, that right play is something comfortable, which is getting someone else open, giving someone else the shot. It's not always necessarily him taking the shot. And sometimes the right play is the uncomfortable play, but the right play is, no, man, this is your team right now. You need to win this game. And, that message was given to Franz and he went out and executed that. He was already having a great night, but, he ended that night with, pulling up the score right now, he ended that night with 37 points, 4 steals, 11 assists, 6 rebounds, shot 40% from 3. Like, he made 7 of his 8 free throws. He did everything that game. Defensively, offensively, he was all over the place. And I would say I'm surprised, but at the same point, I'm not, because this is like 8 games in a row minus the Clippers game. So 7 games out of the last 8 where he's just had a dominant performance. The last 8 games, let's just run down this for a second. He's averaging 28.1 points per game. He's averaging 6.9 assists per game and 6 rebounds in the last 8 games. The Magic have gone 7-8 in those last 8 games. It's pretty ridiculous how amazing he's been stepping up. And then, you see that classic shot of Franz with his hand over his face, JJ Redick in the back, just kind of like a down look on his face, kind of looking over at Franz, who just made the shot. Like, it was just iconic on every level. I too had a couple of friends at the game, had a couple of Laker fans like message me, had a conversation with one of my Magic friends afterwards who was at the game. And it's just like, you can just see things are different. And I like that matchup from the beginning, right? The Clippers game was interesting because you had 2 top defensive teams. The Clippers are like a top 6 defensive team in the league right now, but they're also a bottom offensive team, just like the Magic. Like, that kind of matchup's always going to be a little tough because it's like, okay, who's going to have the mojo offensively that night? Neither one of teams could potentially have it, but like the Clippers had it. The Magic didn't have it defensively that night. It was just like, that kind of matchup is a little bit different in my opinion. But then when you come to this game, the Lakers, they're a top 4 team offensively. They're scoring 118 points per game. And the Magic, for example, they've crept up a little bit. They're 25th in offense. I think they were closer to 28th, 27th going into the Lakers game, but they're scoring 109.2 points per game offensively. Then you switch over to the defensive stats. The Magic going into that game, They were the second best defense at, I think at the point, 104 defensive rating. They've now been jumped by the Rockets. We can get to that in a little bit. The Rockets have just been playing great defense. It's really no shout out. It's nothing wrong that the Magic are doing there. But, defensively, the Lakers are a bottom 6 defensive team. They're allowing 118 points per game. So it's like that matchup, I think, was just, one team was either going to score, like the Lakers were either going to outscore us or the Magic were going to stop them from scoring. And the Magic did just that, while also like seeing a game-winning 3 from Franz, who is, right now our Batman. Like it's pretty great. So I was feeling a little bit more optimistic going into the Lakers game. Obviously a little bit nervous with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope missing the game. We know his offense has been pretty bad with his shot, like no hiding that. But, he's still a good defender. He's still a good passer. He still draws defenders out to him at the 3-point line, despite him not making shots right now. So it's like we were out 3 starters. Wendell Carter, Paolo Banchero, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. You have Gary Harris starting in front of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope for the moment. Gary's been pretty much bad all season outside of the first game versus the Heat. You don't know what kind of performance he's going to get. He doesn't really play a lot of back-to-backs, and he played versus the Clippers the night before. You have Goga, who's been doing a pretty good job in the starting unit with in place of Wendell Carter. And then you have Tristan Da Silva, rookie, hasn't played that many back-to-backs so far. It's like he's played 17, 18 games so far in his NBA career. So it's like you have this mix match of people, and you're going up against a team that's ranked, I think at that time they were like a top 4 team in the West. So and they were cooking. They were on a 6-game winning streak, and they hadn't lost at home yet. So there was a lot of things. We can talk about how this was a scheduled loss, the end of a road trip, second night of a back-to-back. There was a lot of things that might not have gone in the Magic's favor, and they played through all the adversity and won in a huge way. And the league took notice of that. And it wasn't a nationally televised game, but it was the last game of the game. It was the last game of the night, and it's the Lakers. So a lot of people are tuning in for that. So I was super psyched. I went to bed 30 minutes or so later after the game ended just because I had to calm my energy down. It was a great, great performance. Before we continue, though, I just want to pause real quick, and I want to remind people of our Patreon program. We have a Patreon program. It's a paid subscription program. There's a couple different tiers. And basically, it's a fan's way to give back to the Orlando Magic HQ so we can continue to do what we're doing and elevate what we're doing on a regular basis. We don't pocket any profits right now. We just basically feed it all back into HQ and into the community to do giveaways and things like that. The program's been really kicking off. We have a really, really active Discord community that's been having a lot of fun, some really fun, healthy discussions, talking about, the NBA, the Magic, talk a little bit about some sports betting and all sorts of fun stuff. It's been really good and a healthy community. And plus, there's just tons of exclusive content that we're pumping out. We have a podcast just for our Patreon subscribers. We'll do video content. We'll do written articles. It's a lot of fun. And, that content's coming out pretty regularly. So if you all want to consider supporting us a little bit more, you're welcome to check out our Patreon page. It's going to be linked in the show description. We'd love for you to see if it works for you and consider supporting us. And so, the Magic right now, they are currently 10-7, 10 wins, 7 losses. They've won, like we've said, 7 out of the last 8 games, and they've just been on a tear. It's been really, really fun to see them play and just, good teams beating bad teams. The Magic are a good team, and they're beating bad teams. What I've noticed, too, during this run is, particularly the last handful of days, is you hear the media talking about the Magic as if they are a playoff team and as if they expect them to be potentially one of the top 4 teams in the East. You've heard it on the Bill Simmons podcast. You've heard it on the Brian Windhorst podcast, the Hoop Collective. You just see it being the Magic being talked about a little bit more in a positive light, despite not having Paolo. And I think that is just like a continued testament to the defense of this team, right? We know we're not winning by offense. Like that's clear. We held 6 teams. The Magic held 6 teams to under 100 points on the 6-game winning streak. It was pretty impressive. And I don't know, man. I'm just I went into the season wondering how, there was a lot of people wanted the Magic fans to have the Magic to have a top 4 seeding, and for me, it was more like, no, let's just be a playoff team. Like the East is going to be a little bit harder. Philadelphia, which we now know is a shit show. They've struggled, but we all no one really expected it. The Bucks had a really, really slow start. They're starting to kind of figure things out now. But it's just really cool to see a little bit of the conversation twist a little bit more positive for the Magic, and for the Magic to continue to be talked about. You turned on any basketball podcast yesterday on Friday, and there was a segment talking about Franz Wagner.
Yep.
And what's cool is you turned on a podcast earlier in the week, there was a segment talking about Franz Wagner and the Magic because they had been on this winning streak. Franz had been killing it. Like I said, he's averaging like 27 points per game right now. It's kind of ridiculous since, in the last 8 games, he won Player of the Week last week. So there's a lot of positive momentum going on with this Magic right now. Has anything surprised you kind of during this run?
I mean, let's be honest for a minute. Nobody was expecting for the Magic to play the way that they're playing. Nobody was expecting for Franz Wagner to play the way that they were playing. Alan and I, when we just heard the news that Paolo Banchero was going to, miss 6 to 8 weeks at a minimum, we went down the calendar and the schedule, and it wasn't looking pretty. Like the games that we saw in the matchups, and this is foreseeing the Magic, starting off in a losing streak before that road trip, where things just kept getting worse and uglier, and we didn't know how the Magic were able to survive. Like people out in the computerverse, right? They're talking about the season's done for. We're back in the draft. Like obviously these are super passionate reactions, but you'd be a fool not to at least allow that to kind of creep into your mind a little bit. So I think for me, the biggest surprise has been how much of a blessing in disguise Paolo Banchero being out is and will be for this team. Because I think early on, you kind of look at this team and you say, man, the way that this team is orchestrated is you have Paolo Banchero and you just work around Paolo, right? No matter how much of a team player Paolo Banchero is, there's been moments where it's kind of, you give him the ball, he does what he does, and then everyone's kind of standing around a little bit. But from Franz Wagner finding himself, I think, and you alluded to it already with Coach Moses' interview where he says, I told Franz to be uncomfortable. I need him to take those uncomfortable shots because he is team-oriented and he is wanting to pass the ball, and maybe the right play isn't for him to take the shot, but we need somebody to be that. And I think that if he can continue that mindset when Paolo Banchero returns, that's going to alleviate so much pressure off of Paolo Banchero. And one of the things I love the most is that when Franz hit that game-winning shot, Paolo Banchero's reaction was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
There's no, and that's the amazing thing about this team. There's no jealousy. There's all support. Even Cole Anthony, man, someone that has really diminished his playing time, he's still on the bench, standing up, celebrating, cheering, amping his teammates up. He's still in the pre-games, in the middle of the huddle,
He's
doing
the
his
team's
whole little
biggest
dance
cheerleader
routine.
right now,
Yeah, man. And Cole Anthony, in my opinion, and not to kind of derail the subject, but
we can. It's our show today. Al's not here.
I do believe that he's going to figure it out. It's just not his time right now, right?
Yeah.
And this puts a little more pressure on him, even more so because you have Anthony Black playing really good basketball, because you have Tristan da Silva playing really good basketball. And these are all benefits from Paolo Banchero not playing. This is now you have Tristan da Silva, who has way more experience than any of us really thought realistically he would have been receiving.
4-year rookie.
Yeah, 4-year rookie, but in the starting lineup, playing 30-plus minutes against the Lakers. That Laker game, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, they went off for 70 points.
Those guys had an incredible game.
Yeah, maybe we started getting too used to holding, teams under 100 points, and this one kind of slipped away a little bit, but nobody else really scored the ball like that outside of Connect. Austin Reeves was struggling. D'Angelo Russell,
struggling.
He's coming off the bench, so he's going through his issues. But when I start to look to see what's coming next, the Magic are in a really good position to continue making noise. You have the Pistons tonight, where they're going to be without Cade. You got the Hornets that we've already smacked them around a little bit. The Bulls, the Brooklyn Nets twice. The big game is going to be that New York Knicks game, which is the next game of the NBA Cup, and then followed by the Sixers twice. So, those games will be more challenging, but the Magic are in a really, really good spot to where every single game, and we've said this before, and obviously last season was a big indicator of, every single game matters, because it is the difference between us being the 3rd seed, the 4th seed, the 5th seed, us having home court advantage in the postseason. It's going to be huge, but with Paolo Banchero being out, man, we're collecting every single win, and every win feels so much more impactful because this team isn't healthy. Like, the Magic are winning games without 2 of their starting players and pivotal players. Like, you're doing this without your starting center and a top 25 player in the NBA in Paolo Banchero.
Yeah, I want to circle back to like the nothing. We don't want Paolo out. We want him back, but like back to that silver lining about him being out. And you talked about it a little bit, and I just want to go a little bit deeper. Is like we're seeing growth and having guys have opportunities they wouldn't have had as Paolo's here. And I think what's cool is like Paolo is witnessing what his team is capable of. He is witnessing Franz being able to not just be like, because we all know Franz is capable of having these big performance games, but we haven't seen it on this consistency for so many stretches, right? Not since like his rookie year. And now we are seeing it. We're seeing him average, 27 points per game in the last 8 games, 10 games. Actually, it's actually, I also did the stats for the last 10 games where they're on that winning, like the losing streak too at the end of the road trip. And yeah, he's averaging like 26, 27 points per game, even if you include those games. And it's just like, it's so cool that Paolo is being able to witness his running mate have this success. And then it's also cool that Franz is getting the confidence, like, hey, I can do this not just in team, Germany and FIBA, but I can do this for the Magic too. And like those guys are going to be able to figure out a way that really complement each other to make this team have an even higher ceiling than before. And I'm hoping that because they're kind of figuring this out now, when Paolo gets back, they'll be able to find that dynamic balance a little bit easier in, January, February, before the end of the season where the playoff push and seedings really, really get tight in that last 25 games, going into the playoffs, obviously, where the Magic should be a playoff team. So it's really fun to see everyone kind of like have to play in this new role. Not fun that I don't want Paolo back. I want Paolo back, but you're right. Tristan da Silva getting this early experience where he's playing 30 minutes a game for this nice long stretch. If his number gets called in the end of the season, he's going to be so much more confident in his role because he has done it. Because we know when Paolo gets back, his role is going to diminish, right? Like that's no question about that. Goga and Wendell Carter, both great players. There's been a lot of conversation around both of them. We now have more experience and more data with Goga to where Coach Mosley can make some really tough decisions depending on the matchup, who should be in the place. And because of the connection that Goga's been having with this group right now, like he'll be able to fit right back in like a glove if his number's called, right? They'll be able to figure out what's going on with Wendell Carter Jr. and how he best fits in with the team. So it's like, there's just a lot of little mini silver linings I'm starting to figure out that with Paolo being out.
Not to interrupt you, but
no, you're good.
Kind of add to that point is this allows for the Magic to be a little more patient too. Like you don't need to rush Wendell Carter back because we need to save the season. We don't need to rush Paolo Banchero back because we need to save the season. Like you can kind of extend that out. Not that we really want to. Obviously, we want these players to be on the court as soon as possible, but there's now no rush for it. Like Paolo Banchero can really be healthy before, and there's already been reports coming out where he said, he wouldn't be surprised if, he feels healthy enough to be back before Christmas, right? But the Magic don't have to push that. Like we can
totally
wait, as long as we're winning. Like Wendell Carter, especially Wendell, man, because he's a player that has always struggled with injuries. So we know that we expected this to happen. The hard part for Coach Mons is going to be, okay, now you have Wendell Carter Jr. back healthy. Goga has, again, second season in a row, proven that he can really help this team win. How do you find a way to be able to allow both to live? Because I'm at a point where I don't feel comfortable with Goga having DMPs anymore. Like I need him.
That's always been the hard part.
Yeah, I need him to contribute. And although Goga has been playing great, so has Mo Wagner. So how do you find a balance in a world? Like, yeah, you can leave it up to matchup, but
and it's
also you don't want that to kind of sizzle down.
And with that, it's like you kind of need Mo Wagner scoring in the second unit, right? Let's be real. Goga is more of a play finisher than a playmaker. He's not creating his own shots. He's catching lobs. He's doing putbacks. He's, taking advantage of a mismatch where, Mo, he can have someone on him on the 3-point line and drive to the basket and create contact and get to the free throw line. He has a couple more post moves. He's not like an insane scorer, but he has a little bit more of that offensive stall. The offense stalls, get him the ball. He'll do some ISO shit and probably have some luck with it, right? He's got that ability where Goga doesn't. And for a second unit that doesn't really have a lot of scorers in it, you kind of need that, right? That's, on this run, I think Mo Wagner's been like the second leading scorer for the Magic, which is, really great because that second unit needs it. They've, Cole Anthony isn't playing great. He is someone that did score more for the second unit last year, and he's not doing that right now. Anthony Black absolutely has improved in offense, but, let's be real. Like, this year, if he averaged 10, 11 points per game, that would be great. But he's not a guy that's going to go off for, 20, 18 on every other night that Mo Wagner has the capability of doing. And so it's, you kind of need that. So it's a little bit hard to see the exact fit. So, okay, cool. If Goga, if Wendell Carter Jr. goes back as a starter, is Goga playing in the second unit? Are you taking J.I.'s amazing defense out? Are you taking Mo Wagner out, who's got, the offensive skill set that second unit needs? Okay, well then you're certainly not going to bench Wendell Carter Jr., right? So are you going to put Wendell Carter Jr. over Mo Wagner then? Because I don't think you can bench J.I. You need his defense. So then is it Mo Wagner getting benched for Wendell Carter Jr.? It's just complicated, right? It's not easy as who starts, Mo Wagner or Wendell Carter Jr. It's not that easy because then you have to figure out what does the other person do, right? And so I'm looking forward to
what an amazing problem to have.
It's a great problem to have, right? I'm looking forward to hopefully Coach finding ways to get, experimental. Wendell Carter Jr. can play the 4-bit. Can he do some more big man lineup? How can he get creative and get both of these guys minutes without, someone just getting DMPs? And ultimately, I don't know. I think someone might get DMPs, and I'm glad I'm not the one making that decision, but it's hard. I want to circle back to, you were talking about the Magic sustaining, play while Paolo is out. And you were talking about, I think when we all saw Paolo go out, we're all like, okay, let's just keep this team around 500. They're going to win some, they're going to lose some. They went on a 5-game losing streak. You had Jalen Suggs come out and talk about yeah, this is an adjustment for us. Our entire training camp and offseason was focused around Paolo. It's now they can go back into it and think, okay, yep, we can make some adjustments now. Paolo is coming back. We have Franz. How can we take advantage of them both a little bit more? And guess what? The team isn't just hovering around 500, right? It's still early into the season. We got to see what the next little stretch of 10 games looks like. But, the Magic, they're sitting 3 games above 500. They're 10-7 right now. They're 4th in the East. They're 1 game behind the Knicks, but that's mostly just because the Knicks have played a little less games, so they have 1 less loss than the Magic. The Knicks are 9-6, right? The Magic are 10-7. So the Magic have played some more games. That will level out. The Knicks are starting to figure some things out. There are a few teams right behind the Magic. You have the Heat at 6-7, so we have a little bit of a buffer there. The Bucks, they're starting to figure things out. Giannis is on a tear. Dame's starting to kind of figure things out. They're about to get Chris Middleton back, so they're 7-9. They were a bottom 5 team in the East for a little while. They're now, a playoff seeding team. So the rest of the East is kind of I'm not worried about them. The Pacers are really struggling this season. There are some frisky teams, the Pistons, the Hawks, the Nets. They've all gotten some sneaky wins over good teams. But I guess what I'm really saying is I think we were all hoping to be hey, if this team is 13-13 when Paolo gets back, which still I guess could be a possibility, 15-15, something like that, great. But right now we're above 500 by a few games, and we have a bit of a cushion from the people behind us. So as long as the Magic continue to beat the teams they're supposed to beat, which is the bad teams, right? The bad and average, the bad teams. Good teams beat bad teams. I don't care who's on the roster. Any NBA team is capable of playing good basketball.
Yep.
But if you're a bottom 5 team in the East, bottom 6 team, the Magic should beat you. And they've been proving to do that on this run right now. They need to continue to get a couple of wins versus these healthier, more advanced playoff teams. Like, it'd be great next time they played a top 6 team in the league, even like if they could make it a little bit closer than what we saw in those first 5 games. We're hoping that this run has allowed them to figure some things out within their formula, and I think it has. But they're weathering the storm pretty darn well since Paolo has been out and they got home and were able to like kind of settle into some new realities, because Paolo again went out at the beginning of a 5-game road trip. So I'm pretty excited about what's coming. And like today is game day, today is another opportunity for the Magic to get it. The Magic are playing the Pistons this evening. The Pistons right now, they're a frisky team. Like they've beaten some teams. Let's run through their last couple of games, right? So today they play the Magic. They lost to the Hornets last week. Last Thursday they lost to the Hornets. They lost to the Bulls. So they've lost a couple of games recently, but earlier they beat the Wizards. They beat the Raptors. They've beaten the Heat earlier this season. They beat the Lakers earlier this season. So they're not necessarily having huge blowouts, right? Not every game is super close, but they're not huge blowouts. And they are sitting 8th spot. They're 7-10. So it's not, the Magic can't sleep tonight. Even though Cade is out, he is out. He's got a left sacroiliac joint sprain. I don't know what a sacroiliac, I can't even say the word joint sprain is, but he's out for that. I typically don't like it when the Magic face teams that are not 100% because I love seeing a Magic team like beat teams at their best. But right now, I don't care. I'll take any advantage we can get, and I want the Magic to come out and protect home court and be one of the few teams that still is undefeated at home. How are you feeling going into today's game versus the Detroit Pistons?
Yeah, so like earlier I alluded to the fact that you can kind of put an asterisk on some of these games that we've played and won because they weren't healthy. But neither are the Magic. Like we're hurt. We're winning games, and luckily we have. I'd like to say we have a really deep team, and we have guys that are able to step up. But you don't have Cade, we don't have Paolo. Simple as that. Like these teams, you still got to figure out. It's a long season, 82 games. But we can't sleep on the Pistons. They've obviously been playing so much better. You can point to the change in coaching. You can point to Cade just playing really, really good basketball. Obviously, he won't be in tonight's game.
Better balanced roster.
Yep. Now this is a team that they're third in the NBA in rebounding. So the Magic are going to need to make sure that rebounding is a big focus. Goga had a really good big rebounding night against the Lakers with 15. So for that to be able to carry over is going to be huge. And Magic are not collectively a great rebounding team. So we're more on the lower half of the NBA. So the Magic are going to have to rely a lot on, us being at home as our superpower. I don't know what the scores were like. You mentioned that they weren't blowouts from the Pistons, but this is a team that we should look to maintain or continue or reignite that streak of keeping these teams under 100. So as long as we're able to do that defensively, battle out with our rebounding, hit the 3 ball consistently. We don't need to be at shooting 50-60%, but if we can at least compete from that aspect, we're gonna be okay. And just to kind of add to it real quick, KCP being out due to a personal reason, a lot of people were kind of confused with why we decided to keep Gary Harris when we just signed KCP. Because if you remember, KCP was the first signing, and then we got the report that Gary Harris, and it was for that reason, right? We're not expecting Gary Harris to go out there and give us 20 and 10 and hit 7 threes for us, but for him to be able to step in, a starter last year, being able to come in and he's coming off the bench and replace KCP, in my opinion, is such an amazing add. So I'm not sure if KCP is going to be able to go today. I haven't seen the injury report if he's still going to be out, but if he is, a hell of a way to be able to step in and have that next man up mentality and still be able to run.
Yeah, and it's, by the way, I think we might have mentioned it earlier. He had a baby. KCP had a baby. His wife, I think, had their fifth baby. So, shout out to KCP and the family. Glad you're able to spend some time with them. If he missed today's game for that, still, I would understand as a father, like, you don't get a lot of sleep those first couple of nights. So, we want him back, but also, like, I can sympathize and, get that time with your family if you're able to. But, the Magic, they I'm not worried about them stopping the Pistons. It's more because, like, the Pistons are a bottom 10 offensive team. They're not very good. But the Pistons are a pretty decent defensive team this year. They're actually above league average. They're 12th in the defensive rankings. Magic are a bottom 10 defense or offense right now. So the Magic just have to find ways to score against this Pistons team, and I think they will. I'm optimistic that this Magic team will continue their great run at home right now and beat the Pistons. But it's, we've seen that the Magic can struggle a little bit against some of these better defending teams. And this is a team that's not, I'm not going to say a great defensive team, but playing, pretty decent defense. Again, 12th in the league with their defense right now. So the Magic definitely got to come correct today, yeah, they have to come correct defensively, and I want to see Franz get another 30 piece, bro. Like, I want to run through his last couple of games just for fun. The Lakers, he had 37 points. It was a dud versus the Clippers. He had 14. But then for the Phoenix Suns, he had 32. Versus the Philadelphia 76ers, he had 31. Indiana Pacers, he had 29. Charlotte Hornets, he had 32. Washington, 23. New Orleans Pelicans, 27. In the last 8 games, he's had 1, 2, 3, 4 30-point plus games. Like, can he get another one tonight? I think so. I need him to take to go over the hump and get that 40 piece already.
Dude, he's been teasing with it a few times.
Been very close. Yeah. It's been fun. His betting line, dude. I've been gambling a little bit this year, just some fun sports bets. And his betting line has been like 27.5 for his points per game. And that is like, if it was like 24, I'd be smashing the over pretty regularly. 27, I'm like, dude, that's kind of like right on tough. Point. Like, I want to be able to confidently smash the over because he's been hitting it so many times recently, but it's been kind of hard for me to like actually like go into it. So I think I'll have to put a over on him today, despite his line being probably 27.5. I gotta look. But man, it's been fun. Outside of tonight's game, let's take a look at the upcoming schedule for the Magic. So again, today, Saturday, November 3rd, they have the Pistons at home. Then they hit the road Monday, the 25th, to go play the Hornets. Then they come back home to have the Bulls on Wednesday, the 27th. Then they go on the road for a group stage game for the NBA Cup on Friday the 29th versus the Nets. And then let's just hit that December 1st game. They're also at the Nets. So they kind of have a baseball series at the Nets. They're going to be in New York for a little bit. Actually, they're going to be in New York for a while because they have the Nets back-to-back on the 29th and the 1st. But then on that Tuesday, they have that group play game versus the Knicks, which is going to be a really big one. So they're going to be on the road a little bit. It's the Nets twice, the Knicks, and then the Philadelphia 76ers twice on the road before they come back home. Wow, that's a really interesting road trip. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-game road trip, playing two teams twice on that road trip. So in 5 games, they're only playing 3 teams, the Nets twice and the 76ers twice. That's an interesting little stretch of games they have on that road trip. But, first they got to get through Pistons tonight and the Charlotte Hornets and the Bulls before they have that little stretch to end the November season.
Yeah, and this is a good opportunity for us too because we're trailing the Knicks a little bit. So to be able to take over that 3rd spot, especially with these teams that we're playing against, the Knicks got the Jazz, the Nuggets, the Mavericks, Hornets, and then the Pelicans. So if the Knicks were to fall some of these games and the Magic can kind of take advantage of the next couple games, that'll put us in a better position just to kind of keep climbing that Eastern Conference ladder. But man, tonight, against the Pistons. Should be a good win. I really want to see a strong performance from Jalen Suggs, and I'm looking at Anthony Black. Anthony Black's been playing some really good basketball too. So Tristan da Silva, I would love for him to be able to show more offensively. He kind of adds what he can when he has the right opportunity. But if I can see him be a little more aggressive, that'd be fun too. But Magic take on the Pistons tonight. That is a wrap for us. Steven, I appreciate you joining me today and filling in for Al while he's getting accustomed back to being in the state of Florida. That's a wrap for us. Today's episode was sponsored by Bet Online. We'll catch you guys next week.
Let's go Magic. Have a good vacation, Al.